Hello, everyone. Welcome to Manjari Monologues, my FB Live session. Today's topic is dogs, me, and us. And I want to start by saying that, first and foremost, first I want to say that thank you so much for joining me today and joining me for all the sessions, until now. It's been such a pleasure doing these monologues. I really started off thinking I'm going to do this for a while and stop, but somehow one session after the other, I felt as if I just wanted to continue and continue chatting with you. So anyway, so let's begin with the session. It's dogs, me, and us. Well, my sister always said, that no house is complete without a plant in it, and no family is complete without a dog in it. And I completely agree with her. To make a family, a kind of a complete family, you really need a dog in the house. And to make a house a home, you need a plant in it. But coming to dogs, well, I've had dogs in my life almost all my life. I remember that our first dog was called Rocky. I was kind of in the fifth standard, I think. Then he was a golden Alsatian, a beautiful, a very handsome dog. And well, later on in the growing years, there was another dog called Lawrence. We used to call him Laurie, and he was a German Shepherd. But at that point, I didn't really understand about them. It was much later in college when Sheena entered my life. Sheena was a Pomeranian, and she was a gift given to me by a friend. And I didn't understand the implications of bringing home a little pup at that point, but the moment she entered my life, and then after that, in the consecutive years with her pups Lakan and Fantoush, who were my grandchildren. So Sheena was my first daughter, and my first grandchildren were Lakan and Fantoush. And the moment they came into my lives, I think my life completely changed. I mean, it was like, till that point I didn't know what love meant. I mean, I just felt that I was just living on from day to day without understanding life at all, until Sheena and Lakan Fantoush entered my life. And that love was so all encompassing. It was so filling. It kind of spilled over, from pets to the streets, dogs, and beyond. And I just felt that it just wasn't enough love. I couldn't contain it within me. And I feel every person who owns a dog, I mean, who really loves the dog, will understand what I'm saying, that the love of a dog is extremely special. And it's a relationship that goes beyond common understanding. And if I look at myself and I look at the graph of my life, I can distinctly see that there's a Manjari before dogs entered her life and a Manjari after dogs entered her life, which means there were the two people and two lives. So I'm a completely different person now from my college days before dogs entered my life. Anyway, so my family and I have been taking care of dogs for 30 years or more, and even after marriage, my husband and I. And the whole point is that what we try to do is we try to take care of street dogs. We try to feed them, of course, dogs in our areas, and there are always dogs to feed. And we try to get them neutered and sterilized, and we try to get them adopted if possible. If not, we continue to feed them. But basically, we try to make sure that their lives are easier than they would be without good food and caring. And so, uh, the whole intention of telling you all this is that there are certain things that I learned in the process of interacting with dogs. And these are not preachings, or this is not I'm not trying to be I mean, I know everyone probably has does already know about this. I mean, those who love dogs, but those who don't need to understand that this relationship is really very special, and it teaches you a lot. Dogs basically taught me to be a human being. They taught me that love is completely unconditional. And when I unconditional is a very abused word, actually, but when it comes to dogs, loving day to day is really what matters. Every second, every minute of their lives is important, and it teaches you, dogs love teaches you to value life. And I feel that's what I learned from dogs, to love no matter what. And I do think that I have a dogged kind of loyalty to people. I think I learned it from them too. I seriously love people, and I seriously I'm very loyal to my friends, and I think I learned that from dogs too. Anyway, so there are certain observations that I have along the way which I want to share with you. And first is that We always say, human beings always say that everything happens for a reason. And I believe that dogs too come into your life for a reason. And what the reason is, you might not know immediately. It will all depend on how your life unfolds with them and how you share your life with them. But definitely, dogs come into your life for a reason. And the reason can be as simple as just somebody you need to love, or you want to shower your love on somebody. It could be because you're lonely. It could be, even because you're going to go through a difficult phase of your life and you're going to need someone to support you. And that could be a dog, and even probably save you from something. And I'm not joking, or I'm not kidding when I say this, that dogs can save you. And I'm going to just narrate a very small incident here. When some years ago, the land mafia kind of attacked my mom's house. I'm going to tell you very briefly. It's all in the court still. But we had a dog called Miku, and she was very restless the day it was going to happen. The attack on our house happened on at around 11:30 in the morning, and usually around that time she goes for a drive in the car. That morning she just refused to go for a drive. In fact, my sister had to literally push her in the car, and she kind of got in with a great deal of difficulty. And she, all along the drive, she kept whining and whining and whining. And when they approached our house, she literally jumped out of the car and ran to our house. So, and there she kind of, with her, how should I say, with their nonverbal communication, she kind of collected other dogs, and they were all sitting there when this real 70 gundas attacked our house with swords and sticks and everything, and beat up my brother and my sisters. And it's a huge long story, but the dogs didn't move from there. They didn't bark. They were there, like giving us strength to face this biggest attack on our house. And of course the matter is in the court, but that's a very very small story to tell you that dogs in your life mean something more than you can even ever imagine. And the second thing I want to say is that, you think that you go out and choose a dog, but that's not really true. Dogs choose you. I mean, literally, if there's a dog who has come into your life, there's a reason, like I said, but the dog has chosen you for some kind of a reason. And that choosing, I mean, you might feel that I went out there and I saw a dog and I brought the dog home. It's not that. You went out there was because the dog was sending you thought waves, and you were destined to be with that dog, and that dog probably knows. So that's how the dog comes into your house. You do not, I believe, do not go out and choose a dog. The dog brings you to them. The dog chooses you. And I'm going to give you a small example of this. My two pets, Tuggy and Brownie, they were born across in the field, and they were very tiny and very, how should I say, very weak. And I was probably, I just brought them home because they just wouldn't stay in the box that they were given to stay. They kept crossing the road, and I was worried all night that they would be trampled over by a car. So I brought them in the house thinking I was going to, give them up for adoption. And so one was brown and one was, actually, there are pictures behind, but I don't think you can see. One was brown and one was black, Dougie and Brownie. And anyone who came for them said, we'll take one. But I always wanted to give both of them up for adoption because they were brother and sister. But they nobody wanted them together, and they just stayed at our house. And that's how they adopted us. We didn't adopt them, they adopted us. But the point of telling you is that Tuggy became my muse. She literally helped me write my novels. I mean, till then I was writing novels, but from the point Tuggy came into my life, I just realized that I was writing better. I was creating, larger than life stuff. In fact, I wrote my Trailer 4 and Voice of Runes, and all my other books, Revolt of the Lamebren, everything was written after Tuggy came into my life. So it's really important to understand why dogs come into your life, and you need to share, you need to share this bond with them, and I need to understand why they have come into the life. And it's a bond which is just beyond comprehension. So you need to really work on it. Then they say that dogs, when they go away, the pain when they die, the pain that you feel is very intense and unlike anything else that you can even imagine. So sometimes you feel, oh, a dog has passed away. So what? It's okay. I mean, it was just a dog. But that's not just, it's not just a dog. The dog is, how should I say, the pain that you feel after a dog dies is so immense and so intense that it's beyond comparison. And there is a reason for it. I think they say that the loss of a dog is so painful, and it has to do with what happened on a brain level with your interactions with your dog. So they also say, this article says that um, that interactions between the owner and the dog are associated with increased levels of oxytocin, a hormone often referred to as the bonding hormone. And most, if not all, dog owners experience a noticeable sense of well being when gazing into the dog's eyes. And the process may not be, I'm sorry, I was just smiling because I stumbled. Anyway, so when you look into your dog's eyes, it's a feeling similar to looking into a child's eyes. It's like a mother and child bond. So this bond that you feel for a dog and the loss is something beyond what you can imagine. So next time you see if someone's grieving for the loss of their pet, understand that they're going through hell. Okay. Then the fourth and the last observation I'm going to make before Anjali Sharma joins us um, is that many humans prefer dogs to human beings. I mean, I do. I always feel that sometimes I prefer dogs to human beings, and not just because of their unconditional love or because humans talk so much and backbite and all that, but there's a reason why that is so. And the National Geographic poll says that 1 in 5 people prefer to spend time with their pet than with their humans. And according to an American Pet Products Association survey, 62% of small dogs, 41% of medium sized dogs, and 32% of large dogs sleep with their owners. So I think that kind of gives a lot of comfort to human beings when they have this companionship, this really incomparable companionship with their dogs, which transcends a normal one-to-one friendship with even a human being, probably. Anyway, so that is it. And I yes, just let me see what else I wanted to say. Anyway, so most of the times when you're taking care of dogs and you go out of your comfort zone and try to take care of them on the street, and you notice that there's a lot of antagonism out in the streets. And I mean, I always say this in rather jokingly, that if you want to make enemies, you should take care of a street dog. Very simply put, no matter what you do in society, dogs are always looked upon as a nuisance. They are continuously, people keep them. If they're pets, they're usually tied up. They usually have, they're kept as showpieces. They're neglected. And if they're on the street, then most watchmen will tell people to drive away street dogs. They'll hit people who will come and take care of dogs. They're so disrespectful towards animal lovers. And this whole thing, I feel, is something that we really need to look at in a very compassionate manner, because dogs eventually are our best friends. They've been around us for more than 15,000 years. They are our oldest friends. They're our oldest companions, and we need to treat them with respect. And that is why today I wanted to invite Anjali Sharma to have a quick chat with me. I'm going to, before she's here and before I add her to the studio, I'm going to just introduce her very, very briefly. Anjali Sharma is extremely dynamic, and she has represented animals in the Delhi courts. And she was a member of the Animal Welfare Board, and she was also in the advisory. And she loves dogs and she loves animals, and she's worked relentlessly for them. So I'm going to add her on now. 1 second. Hello, Anjali.
Hi, Manjari. Hi.
Hi, welcome to Manjari Monologues, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here today.
Very happy to be here.
Yes, thank you very much. So, Anjali, how did you come into animal welfare? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that?
See, actually, I am a
Mm.
commercial laws lawyer. I'm also
Okay.
an insolvency professional. So there was nothing about animals really. But it
Yeah.
all started when, and we did not have dogs at home. But my young
Mm.
son, this is in year 2000, somehow managed to get a puppy home. And I just wanted to kind of, I just wanted to go back to the vet and give the puppy back. He managed this somehow. So anyways, however, the pup stayed on for a couple of days, and it all started. I mean, they're just like children. They're just so completely like children. The immense compassion first, empathy, and then, the love, seeing the little one. I mean, how they are just so
Yeah.
completely like babies. So that's how it started. Initially, it was only pets, but then I would say a couple of years later, a dog outside my house endeared himself so much to us that I mean, I just realized that, the dogs inside and the dogs outside are as intelligent, are as loving, are as amazing. So that's how it started in year 2000.
That's nice.
And
That's
yes,
great. Yeah.
another thing, this is when that in Bangalore, there was that horrible cull of street dogs. I didn't even
Yes.
know things like this happen. I didn't know that municipalities do this. Some child was left unattended near an illegal meat shop. He kind of strayed near some dogs who had made that their source of food. He was mauled. And then, I mean, there was such a, killing spree. So that's when I first realized how, I mean, they only have the street to live on. And
Yeah.
there are amazing things we can do, with
Yes.
companion
That's true.
animals, but people
Yeah.
choose to not, rather than
Yeah.
coexist, people choose to
Yeah.
be very, very cruel
Yeah.
and
Cruel. That's true.
yeah, yeah,
Like there's this whole concept of the earth being only belonging only to human beings. They don't understand
yeah,
that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not only our earth, it's everybody's earth. But it's very
Yes,
difficult to explain to people. I agree. So
yes,
coming to laws, could you just state and
yeah,
simplify the laws in favor of dogs to the listeners? For
yeah.
example, is it a crime to keep a dog tied? I mean, so many owners keep the dogs tied endlessly on chains, and they think it's okay. Or so what if you spot such a case, what does one do? I mean, how does one go
Okay.
about it? Can you
See,
simplify the process? Hmm.
yes, it's completely illegal.
Yeah.
Some leashing is not illegal, but
Hmm.
I mean, people do this for the entire day, sometimes even at night. I mean, I have
Yes.
seen that kind of thing happen. It is immensely cruel. I personally feel it is very morally depraved if you are not able to understand the suffering of another sentient being. So
Yes.
the law also holds it as illegal. But the problem is, you see, we have a 1960 Act, the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, which was amended. But somehow the penalties remained very archaic. So Section 11 of the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act is a very, very, I would say, exhaustive section listing out, plenty of actions that are cruel. But then, and when you read it, you'll be amazed that, I mean, that's something somebody thought so extensively of what is cruel. But then what are the penalties?
Hmm.
50 rupees, 100 rupees, or can get imprisonment for a couple of months. That also, if it's not a first time offender. And
Yeah.
see, the
Yeah.
main thing is there is something called cognizable and non-cognizable offenses. So cognizable are when you file a complaint before the police, and the police can take cognizance and get acting. Now, see, the offenses under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act are non-cognizable, which means you would have to file a complaint in court, which can be very, very, what should I say? I mean, very
Tedious process.
cumbersome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Tedious.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you get at the end is, 100 rupees sentence or something like that. So see, now it is cruel, but the penalties are not adequate. So lately it has been in the news that the government is looking to revise the penalties. When I was on the Animal Welfare Board, for 6 years. I was there, I was the convener of the legal subcommittee. We had, after an amazing path-breaking Supreme Court case in 2014, we had drawn out an act called the Animal Welfare Act. The Animal Welfare Act, which is just gathering dust, it never actually became law.
Hmm.
So we looked to developments taking place across the world, and we sort of upgraded, the protections that should be available to animals, but that did not happen. So anyways, it is illegal. it is very difficult to enforce the
Yeah.
provisions. So see, on the one hand, what we do is like say but knowing that somebody who is doing that is contravening the law gives one a sense of correctness around accosting such a person. What I usually do is I do it in I would say, a respectful but firm way, trying to explain to the person, because one should not. I mean, I'm a lawyer and I'm saying so. Do not enter into litigation straight out. Try and work things out first. So I
Talk
have
it to them.
actually managed
Talk it
to,
out. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've managed
Yeah.
to accomplish it in many in my in many neighbors and all. You just talk, you explain that this is illegal, you explain that it can make the animal extremely aggressive, and that the animal is meant to be a companion animal. So
Yeah.
you can be very innovative and creative around what you do, the talking part. But otherwise, I'll just quickly share with you that in May 2014, there was a very, very path-breaking judgment passed by our Supreme Court. It was actually, that is the first time Jallikattu was stayed. It's called the
Yes.
A. Nagaraja judgment,
Yeah.
in which the Supreme Court, Justice Radhakrishnan, oh, it was such a great pleasure to be appearing in that court. And judges of the Supreme Court saying that animals, I mean, we are their parents. They do not have, they don't have a vote, so they are not considered. Doesn't matter if anybody doesn't consider them. We are there to look to their
Yeah.
interests. And
Yeah.
what he did was he said that for animals there should be 5 fundamental freedoms, and he declared some freedoms. He said that you have to ensure their food, their water, their freedom, their mobility, things like that. That there is this absence of pain and suffering. So of course, anybody that reads that judgment will be amazed why reading the law sometimes, or even a brief of the law is important, is because you know where you are right and where you are wrong, and it helps you talk. It helps you what should I say, it helps you speak into the listening of people more easily, uh, get them around to seeing that what they are doing may not be the most compassionate thing to do. And if we are the superior human race, if we
Yeah.
are genuinely superior, it is our duty, our obligation to be uh, kind to any
Any.
disadvantaged creature. So see, that you asked a question and you also asked about laws. The other
Yeah.
thing which keeps happening all the time, this displacement of stray dogs.
Yeah.
There are so many court, there is a major litigation happening at the Supreme Court, and there is a law which prohibits that. The animal birth control dogs rules enacted enacted under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. So what they clearly say is you cannot displace dogs. It runs counter to the ABC program.
Right.
Animal welfare organizations can, sterilize them, vaccinate them, have to release them back at the very location that they were
Same
picked up
audience.
from. And that's the rationale behind that, because dogs being territorial, they will fight off other unsterilized, unimmunized dogs from coming in, and they will lose their own ability to procreate. So the population stabilizes. If you're also feeding the dogs, it becomes a mutually
Yeah.
beneficial
Right.
relationship. So there's a lot of science and a lot of thought behind this.
Yeah, that's great. So, so what you're suggesting is that we do not go straight into the court, but so what happens when talking doesn't help? Because there are cases all around us, and I know that there are some real stubborn people who will just not listen, and they
See,
keep their
then what
yeah,
you should do is, there are many innovative things you can do. Filing a complaint under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act may not be the best thing, because I told you there are flaws in that law.
yeah,
But
that's
then the
right.
Indian Penal Code has some sections 428, 429, which are usually used if in the case of injuries or even death caused by mischief or the deliberate actions of people. But see, what we do is, the simplest thing to do is, I mean, what I have done, for instance, is just keep collating any positive news that you see, anything that you feel can help you later, and lodge a complaint. Don't bother about the section you have to file it under. A lot of people say, but which section should we file it under? And I always say, that's not your job. That's the job of the police. They are the ones who have to see, which they have to see which provision
Yeah,
of which statute has been breached. Just file a complaint. I mean, just be proactive around it. If your individual talking doesn't help, see what we did in our sector. For instance, I stay at sector 15A. There was a major move here to remove our community dogs, even though there are not too many and they're all sterilized and vaccinated. We around 60 of us, there are around 400 people in the sector, but around 60 of us, and that's a very large number, got together and wrote a representation to the municipal authority, to the Noida authority, and said, no, you cannot do this. If you do it, you will be infracting the law, and we are not going to go against any individual. We will file against you. How can you, being a local authority, a government body, commit a breach of law? Yeah. So see, you have to think on your feet. There is no one answer. Just have
and
to
what
see
about
then
what about the police? What about the police? How cooperative are they? Because
see
most of the times,
sometimes sometimes they are absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
They, the strangest thing is, I've seen it in court, I've seen it with the police also. They don't seem to understand that there is a law around animals, and that it is not your personal view that needs to come in, that will govern what is to be done. So you have to be, like our Delhi Police Act has some excellent provisions for the protection of animals, but every police act doesn't. So sometimes they are quite helpful, and at other times they are very strange. See, basically, knowledge is power. You are going to file a complaint before the cops, just read up. I mean, just Google it. You should know. And there is so much available on the net. So you should have a talking point. If you are able to enroll some other people, if it is sometimes, of course, a single person, a single committed person manages to do so much, but if you enroll other people and then go to the cops, I've noticed it is a little better.
So but you said that that you drafted this animal welfare. The draft is ready. But so what's happening to it? I mean, is it going to be implemented? Are the fines going to go up?
No. See, this is something that we submitted to the government in 2014. That's because in the A. Nagaraja judgment, the Supreme Court said the laws need to be changed. See, the Supreme Court, you have the three wings of state: the legislature, the executive, the judiciary. The judiciary cannot direct the legislature to legislate. The judiciary, however, can give a recommendation that, see, this law doesn't seem strong enough, so why don't you upgrade the law? So it is pursuant to that, that desire expressed by the Supreme Court, that a committee sat, the Animal Welfare Board. The Animal Welfare Board at that time was under the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So a committee was constituted. We made this draft bill. We submitted it to the government, but it did not become law. And see, my term ended. The same board is no longer there. The present board, I do not know if they pushed that, but I know that they did push for, see, what the government may do. Ours was a very, it was a very activist law from the government's perspective. We felt that it was very rational and in tandem with what is occurring in the rest of the world. But I hear that what the government is going to be doing is they will be enhancing penalties. So, if the penalties become deterrent in themselves, penalties for cruel actions, if it's 100 rupees, anybody will, just keep doing whatever they have to do and just, So I believe they are going to be doing that.
Great. I'm just praying and hoping that there are stricter laws against animal cruelty and abuse. And I just hope and I'm praying. And good luck to all of you who are trying so hard for it. I mean, it's a great tough job, I know. So what I want to know is that how can we make this world a better place by using a proper legal system? I mean, I know about the laws, but is there something you can recommend? Yeah.
See, actually, I feel personally that lawyers and the courts of law have a great responsibility. You see, a responsibility to ensure And this is not animals. It is
Mm.
any disadvantaged creature. It could be a
Yes.
human, it could be a non-human. Justice has to be justice for all. So all of us, if we recognize that first of all, I've seen judges who have been so amazing. I mean, they have been
Mm.
one of a judge. I remember I was appearing before him, and some person who was very, very, he was ranting and raving in court against
Mm.
dogs. This was
Mm.
Justice Badar Ahmed. Now, this gentleman who was ranting and raving said, "No, but whose life is more important, a
Mm.
human or a
Yeah.
stray dog?" Like that.
Mm.
And the judge just, very calmly heard him and said, "Life is important. Life.
Yeah.
Life
Wow.
is
That's nice.
important. The life of, yeah." It was such
Yeah.
an amazing.
That's good.
So you see, now you said, how can we make, the world a
Yeah.
better place? I think all of us who are thinkers and opinion makers and feel strongly about any cause must, must be
Yeah.
vocal about it. And
That's right.
I mean, it is our responsibility, to just ensure that our thoughts reach many more people. and
Yeah.
and you see, of course, the legal system, definitely. The legal
Yeah.
system, good judgments
Yeah.
go a long way, but even better can be if animal welfare were to be a part of a small or a large or a medium part of our education
That's right.
system.
Part
Yeah,
of our
yeah. So,
syllabus. Yeah. Syllabus.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is where the actual change will happen. That is
Happen.
my
Yeah.
belief.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think, and it's everyone has to work towards it, because it's like, you it's if when each one does his role in
Mm,
spreading, and through actions and through behavior, I think that kind of will be carried forward. And one day I'm hoping this world will be a better place for dogs.
absolutely.
Hopefully,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to ask you, Anjali, a question which I kind of commented on it before, that
Yeah.
I prefer dogs to human beings, and I make no qualms about it. I just love dogs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you ask me, dogs or humans, I say dogs. But what about you? Dogs or humans?
Dogs. For the sheer purity, for the honesty,
True, true,
and
true,
for
true.
the immense, immense love.
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
the bond is so strong that I
yeah,
don't think anyone who doesn't have a dog will
mm,
understand this. It's that
yeah,
strong.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. So, what is your favorite dog memory? I mean, which of your dogs? I mean, which is something that really stands out?
See, the first dog I ever adopted, a little
Hmm.
Spitz. I have a very soft corner for Spitz dogs, because they're very
Hmm.
noisy. They can be
Hmm.
very cranky, and they are really easily abandoned. So the first dog I ever adopted was a little Spitz, very tiny little Spitz. She had been just dumped in a market and was attacked by other dogs, was living in a drain, was not able to come out to eat and all that, was rescued and was at a shelter and was recovering when she came home to me. Now, she would, I put her next to my pillow. She was so tiny. For a couple of months, she would cry in her sleep.
Hmm.
And the absolutely amazing moment for me was when that stopped, and when she started turning and snuggling up to me in her
So
sleep. So the
the
fact
trust.
that
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, a creature
The
that had
trust.
been so traumatized,
Hmm.
developed that feeling of
Hmm.
security again.
Hmm.
That I've
Yeah.
rescued many dogs, but the first time it happened, it stands out in my memory. I
Wow.
mean, I
How
have
nice.
adopted many dogs, yeah.
That's great. So, how many dogs do you have right now? And who's your favorite?
I can't talk of favorites, but I have nine just now. They are all rescued.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, all.
That's great.
Either from shelters, two off the street, and yeah, out of that, two are mongrels, two are Indians, and the others are pedigrees, but a blind dog, two lame dogs, like that.
Mm.
So the oldest, I have a three-legged Great Dane. The oldest is the one I'm most protective about, because he's reached that age of the maximum age that they can go, and he's quite frail and feeble now. So
Mhm.
I have this very, very special protectiveness towards him. Yeah.
Wow. That's really great, Anjali. I mean, God bless you for taking care of all those dogs. And
I have
yeah,
amazing staff also, so I shouldn't
okay,
just
that's
take
so
that.
sweet.
My family shouldn't just take
Yeah,
the credit.
obviously you can't do anything without
Yes.
supporting
Yeah.
family and friends
Yes.
and all
Yes.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, because I know that my husband and I haven't didn't travel till my
Yeah.
dog passed away. We hadn't traveled for
Yeah.
17
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I could. Oh
so
wow, that's so amazing. But I
together, yeah.
completely
We
understand.
one of us used to always stay at home to feed the
Yeah.
dogs and
Yeah.
all.
I
And
know.
yeah, so I understand it's a kind of a commitment and it's dedication and it's very
Yeah.
selfless dedication. So by all the dog lovers out there who really go beyond their capacities to take care of street dogs and all, hats off to all of them.
Yes.
And thank you, Anjali, so much for coming here today and explaining about the laws and everything. I do hope that one day the society is going to be a place where this world
Yeah.
is going to be a place where we can proudly say that dogs are members of our house,
Uh,
all of them. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
that every family adopts a dog, because I know
Yeah.
that Menaka Gandhi says this all the time, that every
Yeah.
building should adopt a dog, then there'll be no dogs in the streets.
In
But
fact, a
I don't know.
judge of the Bombay High Court said so. A judge of
Oh,
the Bombay High
is
Court
it?
had said so
Okay,
sometime in the, I think 19 something, 1990 or whatever. He had said so,
okay.
or,
Yeah,
uh, it was not, I mean, a part of his order, but he said so in court. He said,
yeah,
everybody keeps complaining.
yeah.
Your complaints will end.
That's true.
Each one
And they're the
adopt
best
one.
watchmen. They're the best watchmen. All you need to do is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
feed them
indeed.
and get them neutered, and that's it. And they're going to be loyal to you all your life. And people don't
Yeah, yeah,
understand the simple fact
yes.
that dogs can change your life completely. The
Oh, yes.
security, the safety, the love. So it's been so great talking to you, Anjali. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed chatting
Oh,
today
yes.
about
Very
dogs, our
nice.
favorite subject.
Favorite topic, yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye. So that was Anjali Sharma, and she explained so beautifully all about the laws. And I know it's very difficult to grasp how to go about a situation, a difficult situation. I have faced many where I didn't know whether to complain, whether with repeated how should I say explanations to that owner who had kept the dog tied. I just couldn't get through to him, and you don't know whether the dog is better off being tied than on the street, and it's a very complicated situation, and there are many decisions to take. But that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that each one of us will do our best to make the lives of street dogs better. And go adopt a street dog. If you can't adopt one, at least take care of one. If you can't take care of one, sponsor someone to take care of one, but just keep doing something to help the dogs on the streets, and I hope that we can make their lives better. Thank you so much for watching me. Bye bye.